No.
Okay, Strawman background. I'm reading from a compilation of documents that's been put together by some very brave people and wouldn't be available to the general public, but it's information that you all need to know about. So here we go. When we turned in our gold, and I'm talking about the United States citizens, we just volunteered to be citizens of the jurisdiction of the 10 miles square of Washington, D.C. and their laws. We became 14th Amendment citizens. Our birth certificates, the title to our bodies, were registered at the Department of Commercial. This title to our bodies, all of our property and all of our future labour was pledged to the international bankers as security for the money owed in bankruptcy. This was done under the authority of commercial law, aka Babylonian law, by and through title. The American people were not in bankruptcy, only the corporate United States was in bankruptcy. But with the US corporation holding the title to your body and life, you could be used for collateral to secure the national debt through the birth certificate given by parents voluntarily to be entered into the commercial registry. This act in commerce gave title to your body by way of a constructive contract. Next, the government created an artificial person in your name, a corporation, a fictitious entity to take its place in a virtual reality of contract law and corporations. By and through an adhesion contract, the government then made you, the real man or woman, responsible for that fictional entity, a fiduciary and surety for an artificial entity. Your artificial entity secured the national debt, and through it you became a 14th Amendment citizen of the United States capitals. In other words, they got you to think and act as though you really were that fictional entity. You agreed by your action or failure to act. You adhered to a contract offer because you thought or acted as though you were the receiver of the offer. In doing so, you were presumed to have accepted the contract. All licenses and all existing contracts are made between the United States or the state of, and that's whatever state you live in, and your artificial entity. I'm emphasising capitals here, all caps when I'm reading United States or the state of. You'll find out why a little bit later. That fictitious entity binds you to the United States capitals and its sub-corporations because they have, through adhesion contract, made you, the real man or woman, fiduciary and responsible for that artificial entity. Bottom line, you've got to pay the bucks. Of course, you voluntarily sign and even request all those contracts, don't you? You know, every time you sign a tax return. It seems to be your name, although you probably never spell it in all capital letters as they do. They wish for you to think nothing of the aberration, perhaps just something they do to be clear and error-free. All of these contracts you sign carry with it your agreement to obey and uphold all the laws, rules and regulations passed by the Congress of the United States Corporation, all capitals, and the state of, all capitals, and will be enforced against you. From that day forward, we the people, or once upon a time sovereigns who created government for our convenience and welfare, could never own property in allodium, I guess that means in total, in freedom, because the state now had possession of it all. In 1964, the state obtained title to all private property. You can only rent homes that you believe you own by paying taxes. You have a certificate of title to the car you think you own, and you continue to drive it because of your yearly fee through registration and licenses. The state owns the true title to your homes and your cars and everything that you thought or think that you owned. Here comes the crunch. You married the state through your marriage license, and your children became wards of the state. All of this was pledged, including all the fruits of your future labour, to the bankers as security against the national debt and was placed in the possession of the Secretary of State of each state as an agent for the trustee of the bankruptcy, the US Secretary of Treasury. Not knowing the rules of the game, you went directly to jail. You could not pass go and you could not collect $200. Okay, what does it all mean? Well, there's a title here that says Cows in the Pasture or Freedom, the Hidden Choice. Okay. The way out of this dilemma can be very complex. In fact, its complexity was intentional. Roosevelt had violated the law by placing us into servitude without our consent. Congressman Lewis T. McFadden brought formal charges against the Federal Reserve and the Secretary of the Treasury and was coming dangerously close to calling for impeachment of Franklin D. Roosevelt. 2 months after the executive order on June the 5th, 1933, the Senate and House of Representatives, 73rd Congress, first session at 4:30 p.m., approved House Joint Resolution 192. And that was the joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause. Joint resolution to assure uniform value to the coins and currencies of the United States, which formally declared the bankruptcy of the United States, all caps. FDR, by executive order, declared the people outside federal territories to be the enemy by illegally altering the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1861, revised in 1918. The creation of federal zone citizenship further tightened up when you applied for your Social Security number after 1935. The benefits offered by this contract were hurriedly and voluntarily entered into when the Social Security Act was signed into law. Further contracts were to be entered into and licensed to be applied for all voluntary actions. We unknowingly were entering into lifelong servitude to receive the benefits of the Lord of the Manor. Bottom line, we had descended into feudal vassalage without recognising it, aka slaves. The system of negotiable paper, that's the currency that we're all used to, binds all corporate entities of government together in a vast system of commercial agreements and is what has altered our court system from one under the common law to a legislative Article 1 court or tribunal system of commercial law. For those of you who don't know anything about common law, that's actually the law of the land. United States, Canada, Australia, goes back to 1215 at the signing of the Magna Carta in England. And to sum it up, live and let live, and the golden rule, love thy neighbour as thyself. Oh, and there are other freedoms in there, like the freedom, justice, being free for all, and the right to free passage on public thoroughfares. Beats the tolls of today. Okay, where are we up to? Okay, so we're under the tribunal system of commercial law. Those persons brought before this court are held to the letter of every statute of government on the federal, state, county or municipal levels unless they have exercised the remedy for them within that system of commercial law, whereby when forced to use a so-called benefit offered or available to them from government, they may reserve their former right under the common law guarantee of saying not to be bound by any contract or commercial agreement that they did not enter knowingly, voluntarily and intentionally. Okay, pretty well what that means is that there's a way out, there is an escape. We don't have to be bound by this system, and but we just don't know about it. So we're going to be going through areas that will give us an idea of how we can escape the system that we've been born or birthed into. Okay,